Hello and welcome to The World is One Global Leadership Series. Today we have with us a very special guest, a man who is leading a country through turbulent times, the Prime Minister of Sri Lanka, Mr. Ranil Wickremesinghe. Hello, Prime Minister.
How do you do?
Welcome to WION. I'm good, sir. Thank you. And my first question to you is, how do you assess the situation right now?
Well, we've now come into the center of global terrorism. So far, Sri Lanka had escaped it from all our regional neighbors, India, Bangladesh, Pakistan, Maldives. And it's like other terrorism, we've got to face up to it and ensure that it doesn't drag on for too long and we could apprehend the offenders in the coming few weeks. So that is it. And compared to last Sunday, stability is returning and we made a lot of progress in the investigations.
You believe the threat is over? Or is this just a cleanup operation, or are there attackers still all on the run?
There are a few of them on the run, and until the last one comes in, we can't rest assured. One of them may, out of desperation, decide to blow him or herself up.
At a time like this, people want reassurance and people want answers. And the question that everyone's asking is that we know for a fact that there was a lapse, but whose fault was it?
Well, the information didn't flow up, and the information that went down was not acted fully. Because if the information that went down was acted on, you could have prevented all the blasts, or at least many of the blasts. One of them could have taken place. Now that was not acted on, and that is where the fault lies. Certainly the information had come on to the top, but if it was acted on, it was still been just the issue for media to go on till the next issue came on.
The President, for one, has blamed the security establishment. So do you agree with this assessment?
Well, there has been some shortcomings in the security establishment. Let's see who is responsible.
What is the security establishment then? Because the President is the head of state. He's the defense minister. He's the minister in charge for the police and the armed forces. He chairs the National Security Council, which also includes the heads of security agencies and departments. So if it is the failure of the security establishment, by extension, is it a failure of the President?
Certainly there were lapses. The issue is it certainly went down. The question is whether it went up. And the President said its security had not been informed. His security division had not been informed.
Right. So you're not holding... I mean, when you head a department, then to have a junior official resign, is that not passing the buck or making a fall guy of somebody?
It depends where the responsibility lies. If that's the people who are responsible, then that's where it lies.
Traditionally, the Prime Minister, sir, is also part of the National Security Council, but you aren't. So why do you think you were kept out?
I think after the last political crisis, there would have been, I felt there needed a cooling off time before could have come into those circles.
The differences between you and the President and the divisions in the government are no secret. Do you believe that this could have compromised Sri Lanka's national security?
If this was all gone and acted upon in the ministry, then this would have, as I said, the talking point, another media point till some other issue came up. Unfortunately, it was not acted on. So whether I was in the loop or not was immaterial if it was acted on. If you have not acted on, it's serious. Not only me, the ministers didn't know. There's one minister in charge of Christian affairs and tourism. He should have been informed.
So you're saying it's all right if you're not in the loop, but...
If it was acted on, well, if I'm not in the loop, I certainly it's a cause of complaint. But then it's a sort of academic debate on what's the responsibility of the Prime Minister, whether he should have been there. There have been no dead bodies lying on the ground. The problem is that there are dead bodies, people have died, economy has suffered. And why was it that the information was not acted on? That's really the issue.
Indeed. Are you now in the loop? Do you believe that information is now being shared with you in your office?
Information comes to me. Actually, even if we are not getting information officially, the information will come to us informally. But no one had that information informally, neither us, nor the opposition, nor the speaker.
There are claims that a political conspiracy could have led to these lapses, and this is a very serious claim. Do you believe this? And more importantly, are you going to investigate a charge like this?
If there's any evidence of political conspiracy, yes, we will inquire into it. At the moment, we are looking into lapses in the system itself and inactivity.
You spoke about the political crisis last year, and then you commanded the confidence of the Parliament and you stood your ground. Today, 1 week after the attacks, Can you say that you command the confidence of the people of Sri Lanka?
Well, there has been a political backlash. It has to be. And then you've got to see how we recover from it. We've gone through this earlier from 1983 onwards. There have been backlashes. And then you've recovered from it. People are angry. They didn't expect this. And why, if you knew it, why didn't you take action? And that's what you would have asked. I would have asked if I was an ordinary citizen. Now, is the government acting? What action have they taken? We are looking after the people who are injured. We are helping the dead. The grief is not something that the government can ever sort of legislate for to overcome. That's all there. But the fact is, okay, you had a challenge there. And are you able to apprehend the offenders and ensure that there's no such act again? But what we've done is we've come into a new phase, into what I call the global terrorism, as against homegrown terrorism, which was on domestic political issues. And this is jihadism, international jihadism, terrorism. So can you tackle it? That will be answered in the coming few weeks, how are you tackling the economy and bring it back to normalcy. If a government does those, then I think it should recover the confidence of the people. There is a political backlash, but I'm thankful that there has not been a communal backlash. And that shows
there hasn't been? I think Muslims are being targeted there.
No, there has not been. We saw big communal backlash after 83 and some other instances. No, there have been small incidents, but certainly not a major communal riot or a breakdown. And that I think is reassuring. It shows that the reconciliation we started in 2015 and condemning backlashes have worked. Certainly, we had a regional, localized instance last year in March, but even that didn't get repeated the way people feared. We got through Sunday night and Monday night, and I was really heartened by the way the religious leaders worked together with civil society and the security force and the government to ensure that racial and religious harmony held. I mean, that's what is the plus point that I've seen.
Sure. I want to come back to the question of the government. So we have a peculiar situation where some of the worst attacks in a decade take place. There are blasts across multiple locations. The Prime Minister says I was not in the loop, I was not given the information. The President says I was not in the loop. The Cabinet was not aware. So if the people are angry, I'm sure the corollary to that would be the question, then who is in charge?
No, that's the question. If okay, you had this ministry, the information went down, and what happened? And why didn't the information go up?
Right.
As I said on the first day, before you go into all this, let's restore normalcy and apprehend the perpetrators.
Indeed, that should be the priority.
The first one. That's my priority.
Absolutely, and there are countrywide raids that are on, there are arrests that are on. Your government has blamed a local terror group. 2 groups have been banned, and their associates are still being investigated, as I understand. But they've not ruled out the possibility of the involvement of an international group. Do we know which international group, or is all of this still a matter of conjecture?
The people who carry the perpetrators came from 2 organizations. They were a small group of some members of each organization, not all the members. The ISIS has claimed responsibility, and they had the ISIS beliefs. So we are going into that. That's why we've asked our counterpart agencies abroad to help us.
Right. Some intelligence agencies, including the NIA from India, have spoken of a Pakistani link. The president himself has suggested that his crackdown on drug cartels may have led to this. This may be a retaliation of sorts. Do you see a Pakistani link?
There are no evidence of Pakistani involvement.
Do you think that Pakistan-based terror groups pose any sort of threat to national security in Sri Lanka?
Well, all terror groups pose a threat. But whether we are still investigating whether there were connections, we have no evidence yet of anything of any link with any terror groups in Pakistan.
And none with any drug cartels either?
Nothing with drug cartels. Operating... because in a way they were very strict Islamists, and it's I don't know whether they had any drugs any link directly with a drug cartel, but there may have been drug cartels involved in the ISIS and others who may have been in this, but we are looking at the ISIS connection mainly.
Right. Can you tell us about the role of the Indian intelligence agencies?
They gave specific information, which was the one that went down and not acted on.
And post the attacks?
Post attacks also we've been working with them.
India and Sri Lanka, of course, share a long history of,
we have intelligence sharing and
strategic.
Yes.
So what more do you want in terms of cooperation?
Whatever we
from
want,
Delhi?
we will ask them, but we do not disclose what is the extent of cooperation between us and any other counterpart agencies.
Indeed, understandably. This terror attack more or less coincides with 10 years of the fall of the LTTE. Do you see a link there?
I don't think they had planned on 10 years of this. It seems to have started off about November last year, when 2 policemen were killed in Batticaloa, and the investigation who was responsible, some ex-LTTE cadre, any other criminal gang, but now it's established, they started there. Then they went on to attacking the Buddhist statues in Mavanalla and attacked a Muslim who was the secretary of one of our ministers who gave information. Then there was this famous exercise in Vanathavillu, and they were again looking at who was responsible, and finally this came in.
Right. While this specific case of intelligence not being shared or not being acted upon may be isolated, but reports of sustained radicalization of the Muslim community have been coming in for months, if not years now. Has the government looked at that?
We've been looking at, there have been extreme views being expressed, not only in the Muslim community, even among the Buddhists also. And we've been following it, but no one has come up to level of advocating violence. Of course, we saw a rise in it among the Muslims after the Digana incidents, which is natural. I mean, then it came down again.
Right. So what led to the decision to work on a burqa ban, for instance?
No, this had been discussed for a long time, and then the main Muslim organization, the ACJU, also known as the Ulemas, they issued a statement on the ban, and they were in favor of it. So we asked the Minister of Justice for her to discuss it with them and come up with any draft or any regulation that's acceptable to them. They themselves have asked for time to have further consultations. So that process is going on.
You've also spoken about the possible involvement of Saudi money.
No, they were talking of some involvement of some of the preachers from Saudi, but we haven't got any directives. So once we look into the ISIS connections and others, we look where there have been a number of preachers and others coming in from the Middle East, Saudi and other countries, and teaching here in these schools, religious schools.
I'm asking this is because it seems that the investigation and the approach to dealing with this, from the outside at least, seems piecemeal.
There's a fairly exhaustive investigation with the internal agency SIS and the CID being the lead agencies, but others are also contributing information. We have seven intelligence agencies and one the CID, so they're all working together with the police, the regular police, and the 3 armed forces.
Sri Lanka is due for elections later this year.
Yes.
Do you want elections to be held before schedule, considering the disarray in the government?
Well, the elections are going to be held on schedule, so that I suppose will continue. We can't change it in the constitution.
Indeed. The former defense minister, Gotabaya Rajapaksa, has announced that he will run for president, and many say that this attack, as unfortunate as it sounds, politics is of this nature, that this attack is going to help the Rajapaksas because they have a track record of being tough on the LTTE. Do you fear that your government is going to be perceived as weak on terror?
Once we apprehend the offenders and we see we're acting, then the country can judge. But look, we have got type of cooperation with international agencies, intelligence and others, which are not available earlier, which gave in. I don't know whether any other government will be able to get that type of cooperation help that's come in. And we have good people here investigating. One major lapse of why it was not enforced by some other the responsible personnel. But other than that, we are out on the grounds facing a new situation, and going ahead. I mean, it's like India or others. You fight wars and then you come into this type of global terrorism. All I can say is that you can't you can't use the techniques of the last war to fight the next war.
Indeed. And it's important to note that countries are still, as late as yesterday, were issuing travel warnings. These warnings did not come immediately after the attacks, but they've come almost a week later. Does this mean that there is some fresh intelligence?
I mean, they're following, and some of the agencies are here. They know the people are on the run. So sometimes people on the run can do damage. You saw the shootout yesterday in the eastern province. So that's why they've taken the precaution. They told us they were issuing it that people will come back once things return to normal, which I hope will be very soon.
How does it impact Sri Lanka's economy?
We are looking at it. We are looking at the outflow of hot money that comes in. There will be delays in exports due to the disruption of transport, air and sea transport. We are looking at the impact on tourism. Of course, May was going to be a lean month. Then the cost of putting in security apparatus there, the cost of additional promotions for the new season when it begins in August, and the fact that there will have to be a cut in rates, hotel rates to attract people. In fact, a lot of people who are self-employed in tourism won't have income for a short time. It's a bit too early, but I think from next week we're making the impact. We spend this week in getting the security situation stabilized. And then I spoke with the Minister of Finance. We'll be meeting next week to see how we...
Right. And do you believe that it's going to make things worse because growing Chinese debt remains a concern and it'll make it that much longer or difficult for you to repay?
Overall, we had a big debt problem both with international sovereign bonds and others. So we were overcoming that despite even the crisis in April. So let's see how we get through it.
Right. So it's all work in progress.
Work in progress. We are looking at the economy by next week. So we come out with whatever has to be done, what the setbacks are.
You want to send a message, sir, to the people of your country and to the people of the world as Sri Lanka deals with this?
Sri Lanka has to face a new type of terrorism, one which we have not witnessed earlier. We are facing it. We are apprehending the offenders. It's not only a question of cracking down on these people and bringing them within the reach of the law, but also ensuring this type of terrorism does not take place again. We are also looking into, we accept the fact that we are responsible for a breakdown in the government machinery to ensure that is not repeated again. It is a very, very high cost in lives, in damage to the country's reputation and to the economy.
My condolences to you and to the people of your country for the loss that they've suffered.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
We're going through this difficult phase in our region.
Indeed. Thank you, sir.